Even though years have passed, Breaking Bad remains a masterpiece that hasn't lost any of its impact. However, did you know that this legend was actually rejected by several television networks, or that it evolved into a different story entirely due to a writer's strike? From Walter White's mustache to real-life drug kingpins, there are 24 extraordinary facts that will surprise you, starting with the fact that while much of the show is fictional, its origin was inspired by real life, when Vince Gilligan was chatting with his fellow writer, Tom Schnauz, who jokingly suggested an idea based on a news report about a man producing methamphetamine inside an RV. Gilligan later explained in an interview that this image became stuck in his mind, and his curiosity over who would do such a thing is ultimately what sparked the creation of the series. According to Gilligan, the most interesting part was that the person doing this was an ordinary, middle-aged, and even somewhat naive individual. This core idea grew over time, and Gilligan shaped the character of Walter White by drawing inspiration from the Japanese film Ikiru, which tells the story of a man facing a terminal illness. When the concept for Breaking Bad first emerged, things did not go smoothly, as the series was rejected back-to-back by Showtime, TNT, and HBO in 2005. Although FX showed interest and began developing the pilot, they eventually abandoned the project in favor of the series Dirt, which targeted a female audience. Vince Gilligan noted that HBO completely ignored the show during the pitch stage, while TNT liked the idea but stated they could not air a series where the main character was a methamphetamine dealer. Fortunately, AMC stepped in and gave the green light to the series. Although it is impossible today to imagine anyone else in the role of Walter White, AMC initially did not find Bryan Cranston suitable because he was primarily known for his comedy roles. Consequently, the producers turned to John Cusack and Matthew Broderick, but after both actors reportedly turned the offer down, Vince Gilligan managed to get Cranston into the cast. Whether an offer actually reached Cusack remained a mystery for years until he clarified in a 2020 interview that he never received one. A claim Gilligan eventually confirmed, yet Gilligan had already discovered Cranston's dramatic prowess much earlier in the 1998 Drive episode of The X-Files. In that role, Cranston played a white supremacist whose head would explode if his car's speed dropped below 80 miles per hour, a performance that, according to Gilligan, clearly demonstrated that no one else could portray the depth and conviction required for Walter White quite like Cranston. When Vince Gilligan pitched the series to Bryan Cranston, he summarized Walter White's transformation in a single sentence: from Mr. Chips to Scarface. While the core dramatic backbone was always planned to be Walter's evolution from a timid, rule-following teacher into a ruthless crime figure, the character was originally written to be 40 years old. However, AMC executives felt that 40 wasn't convincing enough for a true midlife crisis, so his age was increased to 50. To develop the character, Bryan Cranston attended numerous classes at Rio Rancho High School in New Mexico, and a professor from the University of Southern California provided him with fundamental chemistry lessons for use in the show, which even enabled Cranston to correct certain scientific errors in the script. The production crew was shown how to cook crystal meth by a narcotics officer. However, critical steps were intentionally omitted from the filming to ensure the series never turned into a how-to guide. To maintain visual authenticity, the team worked with both a narcotics chemist and street cooks. And from the very first day of filming, Bryan Cranston deeply impressed Vince Gilligan with his selfless performance, contributing two key details to the character. First, the choice to have Walter wear faded, stained, and utterly repulsive white underwear. And second, the decision to grow a thin, weak, and almost pathetic mustache. According to Cranston, These details emphasize just how miserable Walter's life truly was, believing that even his underwear should look wretched, and that a mustache like that was so insignificant, it barely had a reason to exist. Breaking Bad was originally designed to take place in Riverside, California. However, the production team moved the story to Albuquerque to take advantage of tax incentives offered by the state of New Mexico. In the initial script for the pilot episode, the RV was written to be driving through a cow pasture rather than an Indian reservation, a detail that remained from the original California setting. Before the show aired, AMC received hundreds of letters from viewers concerned that the series would glamorize the world of meth. But these reactions ceased entirely once the show actually began broadcasting. Bryan Cranston explained in an interview that the expression "breaking bad" is a colloquialism specific to the southern states, meaning to stray from the right path, a deviation that could last for a single day or continue for a lifetime. When the characters use meth in the series, they are actually smoking derivatives of sugar or rock candy and strictly avoid inhaling. This fake meth was produced by a local business in Albuquerque called the Candy Lady. Although Walter's meth recipe is explained in pieces throughout the show, it was revealed that the formula was intentionally written to be chemically impossible to produce drugs in reality, just as ultra-pure meth is not actually blue in real life. The producers specifically designed these details to ensure the series wouldn't inspire real-world drug production, yet reports of blue meth appearing around Albuquerque were later interpreted as a dark tribute to the show. Furthermore, Walter White's alias, Heisenberg, is a direct reference to Werner Heisenberg, one of the most important physicists of the 20th century who won the Nobel Prize for his contributions to quantum mechanics. Known for the uncertainty principle, Heisenberg also suffered from cancer and eventually died from the disease, just like Walter White, which was one of the reasons Walter chose this name. Vince Gilligan stated that one of the inspirations for creating Walter White's Heisenberg persona was Frosty the Snowman, as Frosty would come to life when he put on his hat, much like how Heisenberg only emerged when the hat was placed on Walter's head. Hank Schrader's surname also contains a subtle nod to the world of chemistry, as the German scientist Gerhard Schrader was the man who accidentally discovered the first examples of nerve agents. Additionally, R.J. Mitte, who played Walter Jr., has cerebral palsy in real life, though his condition is much milder than his characters. To portray the role more realistically, he learned to walk with crutches and deliberately slowed down his speech patterns. One of the fundamental building blocks of Breaking Bad is that Walter White is a chemistry genius. And interestingly, Marius Stan, the actor who played Walter's car wash boss Bogdan, actually holds a PhD in chemistry and is still active in academia. Notably, this role was Stan's first ever acting experience. During the first season, Walter Jr. creates a website called SaveWalterWhite.com to raise money for his father's cancer treatment, a site that was actually launched by AMC and remains accessible to this day, with the donate button redirecting visitors to AMC's own page. In one of the most memorable scenes from the first season, Walter and Jesse attempt to dissolve a body in a bathtub using hydrofluoric acid, which results in the acid eating through the tub and floor. However, when the Mythbusters team tested this on pig tissue in 2013, they found that while the acid could break down tissue, it did not completely liquefy it as depicted, and the bathtub and drywall suffered significantly less damage than shown in the series. The first season of Breaking Bad was originally intended to consist of 9 episodes, but due to the 2008 writer's strike, it was condensed into 7. However, Vince Gilligan noted that this strike actually benefited the series, because he had initially planned to reveal Walter's dark side abruptly in the season finale. But the forced hiatus allowed him to write this transformation in a much slower, more layered, and ultimately more impactful way. Jesse Pinkman was also originally meant to be killed off in the 9th episode, but during the strike, Gilligan became so impressed by Aaron Paul's performance, as well as the cast's fondness for him and his perfect chemistry with Bryan Cranston, that the decision was made to keep Jesse and transfer his intended fate to another character in the finale. Interestingly, in the original pilot script, Jesse Pinkman's name was Marion Allen Dupree, and he was referred to only by his surname, and in a strange coincidence, a real-life drug kingpin named Walter Eddie White lived in Alabama when the show premiered in 2008, eventually making the state's most wanted list in 2012 for manufacturing methamphetamine, though Gilligan maintains he chose the name Walter White simply because it sounded ordinary and dull, making the similarity entirely coincidental.